my dance, make it hurt. Piece by 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 Dallas, make it hurt.
And a very good evening, everybody, and welcome along to this week's episode of Tea and Tops. It's Monday, it's a little bit after 9 o'clock. As is tradition, we like to be late to start, just to keep you all waiting. This week, Jason and I are very pleased to be joined by Tops living set artist Jared Kelley. Jared, how are you doing tonight? Or this afternoon for you, I guess.
Doing great. How you guys?
Yeah, we're doing super well, thank you very much. So Jared's on the show this week. We're going to have a little bit of a chat, talk a bit about your work with Topps and sports cards in general, and find a little bit about your background. But I guess we have to kind of open with the current $64,000 question, which is obviously given the news that's come out in the last sort of couple of weeks about Topps and the future of cards and whatever else. Just interested to hear what your initial thoughts were, or if you've heard anything or can say anything. I'm guessing not too much at the moment, but what was your reaction to the news when you saw that come out?
Sure. Just to rephrase the question, you want to know, will I be working after 2022?
Well, potentially.
2026 is what we need to take it over. 2025. So you got at least a couple years.
Okay. You know what? It's funny because Top doesn't. I'm not privy to a lot of the, talk at Topps with the execs and what they're planning on doing with the business. But it's funny because I had another Topps artist reach out to me, Josh Trout. He was on the show. He was a guest for you guys. And he reached out to me Thursday when the news broke. And the Wednesday prior to that, something weird happened with the living set, and they didn't drop the 2 new cards until like 9 p.m. at night or something. Everyone was like, where are the living set cards? And when he just asked me, so what's up with Topps? And I'm like, they were late dropping the cards, but it's no big deal. He's like, no, man, look at the news. And that's when I saw, well, they lost that license after 70 years. But, I feel like I've kind of been led to this point in my life. And previously I probably would have been a little bit more upset or nervous about such news. But, I'm really not nervous. I think Topps has done they're a historical company for many people, especially collectors. I mean, they've been there all the time. I can't imagine trading cards not having Topps doing baseball cards. How that ends up happening, I'm not sure. But I'm not real worried about, begging for food on the street or anything. I don't know if you guys know it or not, but about 5 weeks ago, I was a software engineer. So worst case scenario, I go back to handling code instead of painting full time.
Right. Okay.
But I have a lot of optimism that we'll hear some news down the road and we'll be pleasantly surprised. Pleased to see that some of these Topps products will continue on.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. We discussed it quite a bit on the show last week, obviously. And yeah, I think the general kind of consensus from a lot of the collectors is that hopefully a bit like Fanatics did with Majestic Athletic when they bought them over, hopefully they might take on some of the intellectual property from Topps, if nothing else. So some of these historic brands, like you say, like Bowman and all these kind of things, these names will carry on in the future regardless of whose name it is that's on the back of the packs on the small print. So hopefully.
Listen, you guys may be able to feel some of the pain. I mean, there's some humor in it on my end because for 10 years I was working as a professional artist, and I was focusing on doing portraiture, And my wife was with me those 10 years when we either got paid 1 month or we didn't get anything. And this is before we had kids.
Yeah.
When kids got around, neither one of us could sleep well, knowing that we couldn't predict our income. So that's when I decided to start doing pretty much normal jobs and see what I could. By the way, an artist doesn't qualify for much. So I started like at 38 digging holes for construction companies. Never worked a day on the site in my life. And but anyways, she lived that 10 years, right? She's stressed out like I am. I get a software engineering degree and I start doing that work, and we can at least have predictable income. And here I come saying, I got this opportunity to work for Topps. The only way I could reassure was that it's not going to be like it was the last time where we couldn't predict income. This is going to be a set that has no end. And they want me to do a portrait a week. And I've only been out of the software engineering for like a month. And then this news breaks where we don't know if the living set, which is what I used to sell, transition to this full time to my wife. We don't know if it's going to be around. So I'm sure collectors have significant others that are pulling their hair out. Like, why do you do this? Why do you do this addiction? Why are you buying these cards? But my wife, in a similar fashion, has been married to an artist who tried to make a living painting. But it's just funny, the timing. I mean, 1 month after I quit software engineering, and then the news breaks. But I don't know what's going to happen. But I do think, like you said, intellectual property rights, Topps is somebody's going to find a way to carry on these iconic brands. I mean, my goodness, it's just too much history put into a lot of these brands to just let them fall by the wayside. I can't imagine anyone would do it, especially with Topps having record-setting quarters.
Yeah.
Clearly, there's a demand for their product. I can't imagine from a business point of view, I can't imagine any company just letting that sit and not take a hold of that.
Yeah, there's definitely intrinsic value in that as well. So
yeah,
I think a lot of the rumor is that some of it or all of it might get bought up. But I guess we can sit and postulate and speculate all day. But you mentioned this is you just gone back full time again. But of course, this isn't your first foray into the world of card art. You've done art for previous sets before the Topps Living set. Is that right?
Oh yeah. I first started doing work in the hobby in 2010. Upper Deck at the time had Goodwin Champions they were putting out, and in that particular year, they were going to have paintings on card of U.S. presidents. So they were looking for some artists to do that, and they asked if I could do, I think it was 22 of the presidents, and so it ended up being 10 of each president. So 220 cards I did for Upper Deck at that time, and that was my first venture into the hobby and doing artwork for trading card companies. And it was well received. I met a lot of really awesome friends. To this day, I'm still in contact with many of them that saw my work in that Upper Deck set. And then from there, it just kind of snowballed. I started doing work for In the Game that Dr. Brian Price used to run. And at the time, he also owned the license for Sport Kings, which I love. I love that brand. And then eventually I got back here to Topps. So I've kind of been to a few places doing some of this.
Yeah, Sports Kings is kind of interesting. It's not a brand I was familiar with until about, what time is it now? So yeah, about 35 minutes ago, I think. when we were like feverishly going through your back catalogue. Big fan of the Drew Brees that you did for the 2021 set, by the way. That's quality.
Yeah, those are fun.
Yeah, that was really cool. So yeah, Jason and I were like, "What is Sports Kings?" And we went and looked it up. So it's like a reimagination of a kind of 1930s kind of time chewing gum brand. Is that right?
Yes, it's. I'm not sure when the actual Sport King brand started, but it is extremely old.
Yeah.
And it went dormant for a while, and then the license has been picked up by a few folks. Dr. Brian Price was one when I first started working for him, and then Chris Stratton with Sage Cards, I think, owns it now and produces it. So what's cool is they kind of stay true to the original design of the card, which was extremely basic. It just have a small banner at the bottom with the name. of the athlete, and then you've got this whole card that's got a piece of artwork done of the athlete's portrait. So I loved it. Up to before I worked for Topps, I had only done on card paintings.
Mhm.
So I think I've done like 11 or 1,200 art cards out there, and a lot of those were for Sport Kings. So there's a lot of collectors who like that small brand, and they collect it aggressively. So it's kind of a niche, and a lot of the work I've done has just ended up in some people's hands, and it just never sees the light of day. So
Yeah.
it's cool that they love it that much. But I get that a lot. Like people don't realize that I've done a lot of work in the hobby for a while. But 2010 was when I started.
That's very cool.
And that's not long after you actually got your MFA. I mean, it said you got your MFA in 2008. So for 2 years there, that's pretty good going. I mean, they must have seen your work somewhere or heard about you to find you that quickly.
Well, that's why I say I don't really worry about the Topps news, because I feel like I've been guided to this point. And I'm not the type of person who's extremely optimistic by nature. Like I can worry with the best of them. But it was funny because I did some pop culture portraits when I was in college for a thesis, and I just ended up with like 24 of these 24-inch square panels of pop culture folks, and I didn't know where to put them. I'm living in a 1-bedroom apartment with my wife. We don't have room for this stuff, and a friend from college had a buddy who was running a kind of a high-end restaurant, and he needed some. He was renovating. He wanted some cool pop art pieces, something that would bring a focus to a small dining section. So I put those up there. A guy out of Florida saw him. He was a big time lawyer. He wanted me to do work for him, similar to that in his house. And I started doing some work for him. Somehow Upper Deck sees the presidential portraits I'm doing for this guy. He requested some of that. And that was it. Like I think it was I forget my contact at Upper Deck. Neil, I think was his name, and he just happened to find a JFK painting I had done for another client, who just happened to be in Montgomery, Alabama, and see these paintings that are just happening to be on the wall. Like if you asked me if I was trying to tell another person interested in doing this kind of work for a living, I would have a hard time telling you what smart choices to make. Other than like a gerbil in a wheel, you're just always trying to produce. You're trying to be productive. Somehow it just works out. I didn't necessarily notice there were doors opening for me at the time, but the fact that I had work and I was at least trying to get out there on like, blogs or on a website or Facebook or whatnot was enough to get the attention of some of these people at Upper Deck. So I'm just fortunate. I'm fortunate Upper Deck found me because doing the hobby work has been such a huge blessing. It's been fun.
Yeah. So how do you find working in such a small medium? Is it if you're doing, especially if you're doing like the kind of sketch or the full art cards, like on just baseball trading card size? How do you find that in comparison to doing larger works?
Oh, it's difficult. When I didn't know people were drawing on cards in 2010. All right, I think some of the examples that were shown to me by Upper Deck at the time, they were like, "Here's what we're thinking." It was like they had quarterbacks or something. Andrew Luck at the time had a sketch card he drew. It was like a stick figure throwing a football.
Oh, I think I remember this. Yeah,
these are pretty popular, right? These are sketch cards, and but what we're wanting is like something that looks like a miniature oil painting on a card. And I was instantly intrigued by that idea. I was like, oh, this would be crazy. But then when I finally got a card in my hand after so many years of being a kid, not collecting, and seeing how tiny that was going to be, I thought, oh, this is going to be interesting. And it is fun. I mean, you break out the magnifiers and you get some tiny brushes, and you kind of have to streamline your technique. But I enjoy it. I really, it's hard for somebody to appreciate what it looks like on my website or on a photograph. But when you get one, if you guys have got any art cards in your possession, when you hold one, it's really cool when you're holding it in your hand, because then you can see how small the scale is, But sometimes when you do a scan or a photograph, it just looks like a mediocre large painting.
Yeah.
But when you see it in hand, you're like, oh, this is amazing. This is a tiny piece of work. And what's cool now is I come across a lot of on-card artists just in this line of work, and the level they've taken it is just, it blows my mind. And I'm lucky that I get associated with a lot of them on social media. But the art card building stuff that's trending now too, that's something that's brand new to me.
Yeah.
So I just noticed all of that this year, and I think it's amazing. The art that's going into cards right now is just amazing.
It really is. People have really kind of taken to it and kind of said, you know what? Like, I've had these cards since the 80s and 90s. They've been sitting in my parents' attic or basement for all these years. What else might I do? Let's do some art project to get an outlet. And, you know, it's just completely taken off. I mean, I've tried my hand at it for a while there, and I was rubbish at it. So, yeah.
Oh, man. I see. I have tried to analyze, like, how somebody like Donnie B is the guy that's reached out to me. I've looked at some of the cards he's making, Optimus Volts.
Yeah.
And I'll just stare at it. I'm like, how are they getting this? Like, what was from the original card, and what was some kind of piece of art they've created to add to it? It's hard to tell sometimes. They do such a good job at fashioning these one-of-one cards.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah. So I was involved with the Negro League Museum fundraiser last year. So we had quite a few card artists come on there and chat to them about that there. So it was always kind of fun to pick their brains, because you know, I got various tips on things like, here, you need these Japanese scissors because they're super sharp and you can cut things out much. So I bet it, like, oh, that was a huge tip there. So yeah, I mean, I think it was a lot of fun. I mean, and especially I got a lot of people who were saying that I did it with my kids, and it was something we do, and they can cut up cards and I can cut up cards. No one's going to care that 1994 Topps Mo Vaughn cards get cut up now. So you're okay with that one. So yeah, so I think it was an outlet for a lot of people, and then people went, I can actually make money doing these.
Yep, that's what really I like to see. I like to see that these guys are able to get compensated for their time, because I know it has to take, I don't know how many hours it's got to take to build some of these. I would imagine you're eclipsing the 10-hour mark on some of these. I know when the first cards I did for Upper Deck, I think they were running me about 6 hours a card. And at the time, I got paid $25 a card. So you can imagine, I'm not making money, really. I'm spending a lot of time on 220 cards, each of them taking, 5 to 6 hours. But I did hope it would lead to something. And maybe it helped push the market what it is now, where there's more of an appreciation for the artistry that goes into these, because you can't do these things quickly, and it's nice to see that they can make one, throw it up on social media, and they've got a few $100 in their pocket now. So,
yeah, cool. I mean, as somebody who's a bit of a collecting philistine, I suppose it's only been in the last 2 years with the advent of Project 2020 and then Project 70 this year that I hate to say it, but you actually put some thought into, oh wait a minute, there's actually an artist behind some of these cards, who's putting in all of this work. I don't think I'm unique in that case. Topps with Project 2020 and Project 70 have kind of helped shine a light on the work of, well, obviously the artists that they've included in this project. But I think we asked a similar question of Josh Trout when we had him on. But have you seen have you seen a bit of a ripple effect from that as well, with the like of commission work and people taking more interest in your card art as well?
Yeah, it does. And it does seem like it's stronger now in 2021 than it was, 3 or 4 years ago. There are, and I understand that working with Topps is a big asset for any artist, any sports artist. So I've seen a lot of blessings come from just us being associated with Topps, people interested in new artwork. A lot of the commissions I do, apart from the sports art, is just is kind of traditional portraiture. Lawyers need corporate portraits in their offices of themselves, and or doctors. So a lot of what I would do on the side would be those portraits, and seeing a lot more requests for one of ones or athletes. The problem with the living set work is there's weekly demands, there's weekly deadlines. It is. I'm still trying to figure out how much I can do extra on top of this, because my priority right now is to make sure that they get their portrait a week. But there's a lot of opportunity to do extra work. There's so many people in the market now that are interested in collecting, and if you can't pull that 1 of 99 or 1 of 5 or whatever the parallel is, that's the big hit. I think a lot of people are starting to focus on these 1 of 1 custom cards. Mm-hmm. And you know what? It may end up going that direction with the news of Fanatics getting into the market. I don't know what the next evolution is for the hobby, but it could end up being heavy on these 1 of 1 custom things that end up being like these museum quality pieces.
Yeah. So more, sort of more collectors commissioning their own style of card that they want to see.
Yes.
I mean that's a really great point, actually, because if some of these familiar brands that we know of from Topps over the last 7 years, if they do go by the wayside, then that I guess that's a potential way for I guess a slightly more well-heeled collector to get a modern interpretation of one of the old brands that's going to go. They could just commission their own one-off piece as well, which that's kind of an interesting take on that. Something I certainly hadn't considered.
You clearly have been following my Twitter feed where I go off on people that say, I want this player for Project 70.
Yeah, that's true.
And I always just go, commission the piece.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, I would love that. Like I said, I don't know what happened. I can't imagine these products would just fall by the wayside. But, if there has to be some ground that's made up, I can see artists out there helping to make up that ground, doing these 1 of 1 custom cards that people like to see.
Yeah. So how does it work each week? They give you a list of players, or do you have this player, or do you give any input at all, or they go, all right, we need this guy to come out this week?
Yeah, they do. The door is open for them to tell you, hey, we want to cut in line and have this guy done immediately. So that's always a possibility. But I generally don't know more than 1 or 2 players in advance of who I'm doing. So I'm only, a few weeks ahead of what's being dropped. And I usually don't know what Naomi Seto is going to paint, and I doubt she probably knows what I'm painting. And I certainly don't get to pick or choose. So there's been some big cards. The Mickey Mantle, I was glad to see that Naomi got to do that. She has seniority. She's done insane amount of cards. I don't know the full amount off the top of my head, but the first 3 years she cranked out a ton of work. And her style and her ability is amazing. So I see sometimes she's going to have the bigger cards. She's earned that. But I don't know who she's getting each week. I don't know who I'm going to get other than the next in line. And I don't really talk to anyone about that. They never ask.
So how does that work as an artist? Is that kind of frustrating? You can't go and say, I'd really like to do some Auburn athletes, maybe a Bo Jackson or something.
I know. Yeah. I'll be doing tons of Bo Jacksons. No, you know what? It's actually kind of, it's alleviating. It's like, it's one thing I don't have to worry about. Let someone else figure out what the cue is. Just tell me who you need and I'll do it. I don't have to think anymore than doing the portrait. I don't have to worry about a schedule or a lineup. So, and I'm not sure what all is entailed on Topps' end. I'm sure there's a lot of communication with MLB, Players Association. I know there are the deadlines I have to meet are such that it gives Topps like 5 or 7 days to present it to MLB because they have a right to decline. So I haven't had any issues with that. The only one that was just I shouldn't say poor timing. It's just the way it happened. Was my Schwarber was he was with the Nats when they asked me to paint him. Yep. Then he got traded like the day or two before the drop was supposed to happen, and MLB wasn't going to let him have the Nats stuff, so I had to hurry up and get the gesso out and paint the hat, repaint it to Boston Red Sox. So, but other than that, I don't know in advance, and I don't really get to pick and choose. It's not like the Project 70.
Yeah, I didn't know if I followed it over there. being what we do, we see everything that kind of comes out there, and I'm always curious in how who chooses that. If you actually get somewhat of input on that and go, hey, I really did this card. He's one of my favorite athletes, something like that. Or Topps goes, all right, here you go. We need an Adam Wainwright card. We need it in a week. On you go.
Yeah, I do know that Topps has folks that frequent some forums out there. So I'll see people in a forum here or there, like blowout forums. There'll be some groups, and I'll notice someone mention something, or a few collectors voice a desire to see something, and you'll notice it show up. So Topps has employees that are looking at these things and getting the feel for the collector universe. But, they have to also, there's a lot that goes into that living set. Like, they have to think for the whole year, how many rookies are we going to put out, how many retired Hall of Famers, and how many just, regular guys that we're going to put in there that aren't in either one of those groups. So they try, I think, measure it out so that each one is, you're not heavy-handed on one category or the other. So, and then of course they don't want to have 6 Yankees in a row. So
yeah, this isn't Project 70.
Yeah, they've got all sorts of things they have to be conscious of when they're putting these lineups together, which is why I say I'm glad I'm not in charge of figuring that out.
Yeah.
So.
Whoever is in charge needs to be fired because they're rubbish. I'll be honest. We had 2 Mike Trout cards today and 4 Ohtani cards last week. It's rubbish. So, but I was curious because you did a Julio Franco card, your latest card. But
yeah.
Well, why Texas Ranger? Did they say we want him as a Ranger? I mean, he played for 12 teams.
Yep, that's the other thing. There's been some athletes and the team that they'll have him on. I kind of scratch my head sometimes, but I'm not sure who's in charge or what goes into that. if it's a decision by committee or if it's just one employee who's like, you know what, this guy played with this team for more years and did most of his success on this team, but I don't like it, so I'm going to go with this other team that he was on, my team. I have no idea, but there's been some of that with certain athletes.
You'd have to imagine they're shooting for an even spread of teams. Would be the logical answer to that question, but hey, we're talking about Topps.
It's like seeing Bo Jackson at California Angels jersey. It does not look right. I can kind of do a White Sox, but it's just like he's a Royal.
Put him in the Royals, yeah. So I know I'm glad I'm not part of that. There's a lot of planning that goes into it, and they have to think about it in a lot of different ways. But I've been happy with who I've got to paint. It's been fun. There's a lot of rookies that I'm not really familiar with. You mentioned Auburn. Here in Alabama, we don't have any pro sports. So growing up, it's only college football. That's all we care about. So doing the baseball work has been fun because a lot of times I'll get to read up on these newer players that I'm not really familiar with. And so it has been fun seeing who they're going to assign to me just from a learning aspect.
So speaking of, I know where you're at, have you made it to a Trash Pandas game yet?
To what game?
The Trash Pandas.
No, who's the Trash Pandas?
Oh gosh, now I can try to think where they're from, but the Trash Pandas are definitely from Alabama. But it's
let me Google.
Yeah, exactly. But they're a new minor league team. I can't remember where they're from, but they're the Trash Pandas. Yeah. So
let's see. We have the closest minor leagues team to me is the Montgomery Biscuits.
Yeah.
It's another quality team. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's the Birmingham Barons are north of me. Mobile, I think, has a minor league team. I'm not sure what they may be the Trash Pandas, but
I'm trying to remember. It was just
it's Rocket City.
Oh, so Huntsville may have the Rockets.
Yeah, it'll be Huntsville then.
Yeah, that's where NASA has a lot of work comes out of NASA from Huntsville.
I had a funny feeling when I said it out loud. I was like, "There's no way the place is actually called Rocket City." But
hey,
there must be. There's got to be some kind of sense of humor with NASA to be like, where in the world could we open one of our facilities? Hey. We're going to pick Alabama. Got to throw the Soviets. They'll never bomb us.
They'll never find us, yeah. I don't know, man. I've seen some quality redneck engineering on YouTube, so I can kind of understand why they went there.
Yeah, redneck ingenuity. It's a real thing.
Yeah.
But I laugh. The minor leagues are so fun, the names. And I remember when Montgomery was having their team formed, and they asked the general public to submit names through the newspaper. And I remember seeing the winner was the Biscuits, and I just had to assume somewhere a general manager or owner, somebody high up had a granddaughter, and he asked, "What would you like?" And that was the granddaughter's name, because I was like, there is not an adult out there who submitted the Biscuits as a serious name for this team, but that's what we got.
I just assumed it was like there was a biscuit factory or some kind of like cookie factory out that way, and that's how they ended up with the biscuits. Oh man, I'm gonna have to go look this up. We're off the air now.
I know. Hey, everyone, even in Montgomery, are like, are we known for biscuits? So we're all looking up our own history, like, huh.
To be fair, there are the Savannah bananas now, so there is no bananas being grown in Savannah. So
I know. I almost think at this point now, it's one of those things you have to continually to give your minor league team a crazy name, just so that it's funny on the merchandise. People remember it, something like that.
Yeah, definitely something that makes it memorable. I think for sure in this short attention span, social media age, if you see a banana dressed up in a baseball uniform, you're kind of going to remember that.
So I was asked here, are you a sports fan? I mean, we obviously talk about you doing baseball cards and other sports cards. Are you actually a sports fan in general?
Yeah, in general, I am. I mean, I used to watch, ESPN and watch all the highlights from tennis, and when I was younger, I used to be into a lot more of it. Like I remember being a huge Braves fan when I was, in the '90s or whatever, and going to some of their games, seeing Glavine and Smoltz pitching and Maddox, and but I do like to follow some of the Auburn players as they go into the pros. So a lot more NFL probably than some of the NBA or the MLB is what I've watched traditionally or been a fan of. But the benefit of doing sports art is I get to my curiosity's peaked in a lot of the sports. So for example, hockey, when I did a lot of work for In the Game, it was just I want to see what's happening in the world of hockey. So you end up seeing highlight reels of these players and reading up on their pasts, or doing a commission for somebody who's a hockey fan, and so you get to come in contact with that. I'll tell you some of the funniest stuff too was Sport Kings. If you're not familiar with the product, when they release it, it's not just one sport. It's like any sport. So I remember I was doing some cards for like table tennis champions of the world, and there were some bodybuilders, and so Formula One, just any sport you can think of. Bowling, I think I've done some bowling, who's who, and it's just fun seeing all of these different, the best of the best in these sports, and you think, well, I've never really been into ping pong, but let me check out this champion chick and see what her highlight reel looks like. And you're like, oh, that's brutal. She's amazing. She's doing backflips and like making someone bleed. She won by death. But there's so many awesome athletes out there, and I just think, part of what people love about sports is it's like it's a meritocracy. It's kind of the way you hope all of life is. If you work hard at something, if you can perform well, you hope to succeed. Often times in life you work hard and you do well and you still end up with a turd. But I think we love sports because it should be cut and dry. Hey, did you score more points than the other team? Did you get it done? Then you're going to hold that championship ring, or you're going to get the big paycheck. So I think it's been fun doing the work in the hobby, just being exposed to so many different sports.
Do you actually get to meet any of the athletes you've done? Have you had a chance to say, hey, look, I've done this, or just kind of go, okay, I'm in the middle of nowhere, and they're not going to be passing by.
No one's coming to Marbury to come meet me. No, I wish I have. I don't think. I remember once I bumped shoulders in a crowd with Steve Young, but he had no idea who I was. I mean, it's not like it was part of this work that I do in the hobby. That was probably the closest I've come to an athlete. I did do a portrait of Emmitt Smith for a private collector down in Florida who was good friends with him. And I remember they had some massive party at this guy's mansion, and the guy contacted me and said, I showed Emmitt your painting. He loved it. So through a third party, indirectly. But it's fun. I've had a couple athletes reach out to me since I've done the Topps work, just to say they enjoyed seeing their portrait. D-Train, has found me, and Don
Cool.
Trell's been real nice. And then there's we've got D'Amato Pico for the Bengals. He's a big collector, so he's reached out to me recently and given me some congratulations on some work. So that's really cool, seeing interactions like that online. But,
Yeah, it's nice these guys to take a minute and send their appreciation and all that. I bet. But it's probably better if a few more did it, right? But,
yeah. I think I remember what one of the episodes you did in the past. You had James Fiorentino on, and I think Jason, you made the comment that he's the Michael Jordan of
watercolors. Yeah, watercolors. Yeah,
and he should be because of who he's been able to meet and work for in his life. So it's like if I had to categorize myself, I'd say I'm the Larry the Cable Guy. Art world.
We had James on as a guest previously before I had him on, and Graham was unfortunately sick that day.
I still can't believe
it. James is amazing, and we've had some conversations off air, and he just tells me these stories, and I got to spend a week with Ted Williams as he told the stories about his favorite hitters in the MLB. I'm just like that was casual. Oh yeah, Ted's just hanging out. I can call him. See what he's doing.
Yeah. I know it never fails. Any type of breaking news I see in the hobby, I'll end up seeing James' social feed, and it's like, that reminds me, I did this piece of art for this person. Somehow it's like the Kevin Bacon game. How many how many people do you have to go through to get Kevin Bacon? It's like, how many athletes do you have to get back to James? He's been with so many athletes in his career, so it's amazing what he's been able to do.
Yeah. What about do you get the chance to attend many card conventions, or obviously we just had the National not long ago, and there was the big show up in Philly as well. Obviously in the current COVID world, that's probably not been much of an option. But is that something you've done in the past or are interested in doing?
Yep, I've done the Chicago National twice, and once I was with Sport Kings and In the Game, and then the second time I was with Wheeler Collections, which was a smaller brand that was starting out. Matt Wheeler, who runs that, actually is a really good friend that first discovered my work with the Upper Deck products, and he's been very influential. In fact, he is probably the reason I'm working for Topps right now. He's such a huge collector. He has so many contacts, and he's been such a fan of my work that he kind of pulled some strings and got in contact with people and said, if you're looking for another artist, check this guy out. But he invited me to the National one year, so I was able to do work on site, sketch work. So we had a Bo Jackson going on that year at the National, nice. And I think we gave away a portrait I did of Walter Payton and a few other 4 or 5 other sketches that we did there. So it was fun. But I didn't go to the last National. I do kind of wish I had been there. I loved watching the recap from all the podcasts on it. But that, I'm telling you, I wasn't a collector when I started doing the work in the hobby, but every year I just want to jump into it. It's like at the National, I remember, I think there isn't anything I really collect, but I was like, I'm at the National. There's everything you possibly want sports related. And like, I got to buy something while I'm here. So I ended up scoring a few Auburn pennants with old school logos from the university and stuff. So I've got those. So maybe that's something I start collecting. But it was just, I was like, I got to collect something while I'm here. There's just too much awesome stuff sitting around.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, well, we're fingers crossed. I hope my wife isn't listening because I haven't asked for permission yet. But yeah, Jason and I are obviously hoping to attend next year. So that'd be pretty
Atlantic
awesome. Atlantic City, yeah.
Did I hear you guys? Okay. Well, cool. Well, maybe I can make some things work, and maybe our paths across at Atlantic City.
There's a few other people that we're gonna all meet up with in there, and people we've interviewed before. So I think it'd be awesome to actually meet everybody and actually hang out with everybody because everyone's so much fun. And
it would be awesome.
Yeah. To be fair, everyone's been so cool to come and speak to 2 idiots sitting in Scotland on a Monday night to come and talk baseball cards. It's been pretty awesome, I have to say.
Oh man, I love it. I think you guys do a great job. It's been fun. Like I said, I listened to hobby-related podcasts while I'm working on living set portraits. So we're all about the same age, so I've kind of burned myself out on modern music. So it's hard to find music that I haven't listened to a billion times before, and podcasts tend to fill that void. So it's like when I want something going on in the background.
We should be asking you for your views on hard seltzers in a minute. That's
Yeah.
just to keep in theme of the podcast.
Yeah, who was that? Was that with Josh Trout? You guys were talking about drinking donut flavored beer or something. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, his orange creamsicle Coors hard
that's what it
seltzer
was.
things.
Yeah,
creamsicle. Yeah, that's what started it all. Goodness.
I'm not that brave.
Yes, we have our orange creamsicle seltzer on its way.
On its way.
Thursday, it arrives in the UK, so we can't wait.
Oh my God.
Don't you drink it all before I get down to Edinburgh this weekend? Thank you. So one of the interesting things I saw in your bio just when we were obviously doing a bit of research for the show tonight, the official portrait painter for the National Trial Lawyer Association Hall of Fame. How in God's green earth did that come around?
That's another one of those things. Like, you're asking me how to recreate this. I can't tell you. It happens. I mentioned there's a client I had out of Florida that was a really awesome patron of my work, and through the work I did with him, when his firm said we want to create this Hall of Fame of trial lawyers. He said, I know the artist, there's no debate. So then he reached out to me and he's like, by the way, I told him you're going to do this. He's one of these guys, you say yes and you just do it. Yeah. I don't know what connections he had in life, but if you told me he had mafia connections, I might say that's believable.
No.
So when he says, hey, I've told him this is the way it is, you just do it. But it's been fun doing that. They're a very generous group, and it's been nice to see who these people are at the top of their profession and read their histories. But every year it's about 4 or 5 inductees to the National Trial Lawyer Hall of Fame. So
yeah, I have to say it was something that I saw in your bio and then Googled it, and I was off down a rabbit hole, like you say, reading about these people, and you can draw, I guess. Like you summed it up very poetically, very beautifully about sports and everything being a meritocracy and how the cream rises to the top, and it's all the results are undeniable and everything else, and you can draw quite a lot of parallels, I think, between athletes at the top of their game and these trial lawyers that you're doing the portraits for as well for the Hall of Fame. And yeah, when you read some of the accomplishments, and then there's no doubt there's absolutely these people are worth celebrating. And it's really cool. It was something that obviously stuck out in the bio, and I thought that's really interesting.
Well, now let's be real clear. There's a lot more love for athletes than there are for lawyers.
Well, this is true. This is very true.
But you do read about some of these people, and you think, oh, well, it must be easy street for this person. They just do one trial and they make $100 million or something. But you end up reading about these guys and the dedication they have to their trade, and it sadly ends up affecting marriage or relationship with their children, because they're so dedicated at being the best. There's so many hours that go into that. You don't just end up showing up with that head full of knowledge. So to read about the journey some of these guys take, everyone has to make their decision. Is would I be willing to do that or not? But there's a price to pay for greatness, and the price looks different in different fields. And these people were the ones that just were relentless, and they've had some good. They've made some really good strides in at least in the States with lawsuits that have happened. Some of them were influenced or were the reason we had the tobacco companies. They were sued because they hid the research they knew that they were trying to get people addicted faster by some of the ingredients they're putting in there. But that's good work. We should know that kind of stuff as a public. So they do good work, and many of them, they've worked very hard to get where they're at in that Hall of Fame. But,
it's really cool. Like I said, I was through their website, and obviously in a lot of their promotional pictures, you can see the walls that have got your portraits on them, and they're like it's amazing. They're like a really amazing work. It's really great. It's definitely something.
It's kind of it's not really much that ties into sports with that. I always am curious. at the Hall of Fame, if they found out I was doing like sports art for trading card companies, what would they think? You know?
Yeah.
But that's the crazy thing. I've tried to explain to close friends and whatnot, like explain to them that, you know, why I'm doing the work for the hobby instead of software engineering. And I'm like, you don't understand. The hobby is insane right now.
Yeah.
It's they need people that create the artwork and stuff. But again, I'm really thankful for the work that I get to do with Topps, because, you know, in the past, it's been easier for these companies to just Photoshop stuff and to make things look like it's been painted. But and really, I'd have to say it's the collectors that have forced these companies to kind of go heavy-handed on the artwork creation, because you know, there's a value for the company. They're making a profit on it, but I think it's the demand on the collector base that has given the companies the reason to even consider having this done by an artist versus 20 minutes of some Photoshop guru making it look like it was painted, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, the hobby right now is, as we know, is very much all about the chase and about, like you say, as you've touched on yourself, finding that low numbered parallel, or like you say, finding that unique, whether it be a one of one card that somebody like Josh Trout's done a museum collection, or like a sketch card, or you know, getting the artist proofs out of Project 70. So like you say, it has become very much more about getting that, hunting for the uniqueness. And I guess that's probably the biggest difference between, like you say, Jason's junk era expertise, where it was like volume of cards, and now as you quite rightly say, the collectors are after something different. They're after something unique. They're after that, and quite a lot are after that one of one, and that really unique piece that sets them apart from their contemporaries, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, definitely. So either you guys dabble. Have you tried to create? Jason, you said you've tried to create some of your own art cards, but
so I did. So I took all my like 80s cards there, and I definitely tried to use just the pieces there. I didn't want to use any kind of art there, but I was like, all right, I'll cut stuff out there, and let's see, do I have any? Oh man, I took mine away. They're inside.
Did you sell it? You
have
must have
all
sold
your
it.
fingers.
No. I'll tell you what, you guys chat. I'll go grab it real quick, and I'll show you a couple. I'll do it after the show. But yeah, I was just trying to use kind of a composition of just taking the borders and using it as a background, and then I used my favorite set, which is 1991 Studio, and this is by far the best set ever.
It's phenomenal.
I'm trying to think, where did I put that card? It's in here. Because I pulled it the other day when I was opening packs with somebody. Where is it? Oh.
It's not the parrot card, is it?
It is the parrot card. Just take it off the wall here. I'm cheating here. But yeah, so you can't see it here. But it's a Steve Lake card with a parrot on there. I mean, this is the best card you could honestly get. So
That is.
So I was working on a set and taking all these great studio shots, because I said, here's this awesome Dave Valley card, and cutting those out, and then using the borders from all my old set cards, and then I was using as personal ads because it's such like a 90s personal ad, and then right up to like, oh, hi, I'm Dave, like I catch the Mariners, and kind of like that, and do a whole set like that. So I'm gonna do that when baseball ends, and I don't have to watch so many baseball games there.
I'd totally be interested in see cards that you guys put together. I think that would be a fun thing to put out under the show banner.
Yeah, I mean, I was doing that for the Negro League interviews we were doing, and I was doing it for each artist. I said, all right, who's your favorite player? And I was doing it. But then I just ran out of time when it came to the baseball season again, and going, I'm spending too much time watching games and commenting about how bad my Mariners are, and then how good they are, and then how rubbish they are again.
The life and times of a Mariners.
Speaking of the Mariners, you guys depressed me. You had mentioned I didn't realize what the print run was on the Keith Shore Griffey, and I heard you mention it was over 99,000. I was like, Jason had to mean 9,900. There's no way that one card sold 99,000. So I get on like a trading card database, and I'm seeing, it is 99,000. So I do I don't know why I do this, but I do the math. I'm like, all right, if he's got the same deal I got with Topps, here's how much he would have made off of 99,000.
Yeah.
And then I'm looking at how many cards I would have to make because the living set is like a third the cost of what the Project 2020 card was. I think they were $20 a pop too, weren't they?
Yep, they sure are.
Oh my goodness, it was insane. I have to make I think it was like over 500,000 cards I'd have to sell at my rate to even come close to his one Griffey card. I was like, that's insane. Yeah. 99,000 Griffey cards.
Absolutely, yeah. I know a couple artists were definitely able to upgrade their studio during that peak time there, and of course some high-end printing equipment. And so, it was just a bit of insanity, and I still can't believe that we're looking at cards with print runs of like 650 to 10,000, and we were doing 99,000.
I just don't know where people are coming up with this money. Like, where is the money for cards that exist today? I mean, where did it come? How come it didn't exist yesterday? It's like
it was your stimulus check.
Stimulus check.
I know, but you know what? I got one of those too. It was like $1,200. I mean, you can't buy that much for $1,200. I mean, we got all sorts of crazy figures being thrown out for all these rookie cards and these parallels that are being chased. And but heck, if you just want to collect a set of an artist set, or I can't imagine many people are doing the full Project 70 set, but $1,200 ain't going to get you that whole set.
No, you gotta figure it's $400 a set for an artist set there, and that's assuming you started at the beginning. So yeah, it's one of those things that it's a lot of fun. I think a lot of people got turned on to more artists. I mean, again, I'm finding myself the graffiti side of things are really interesting. They've kind of done that. Yeah. And that's nothing that I wouldn't have been exposed to previously. There's always to be the weird, the wonderful with Herbsy, and and Snoop's dogs are actually really interesting because it's a take of his album covers. It's just like Snoop Dogg's doing a card.
Yeah, there's a friend of mine that I've known for years. He's in his mid-50s. He's an artist. He used to paint lots of murals in homes and whatnot, and faux finishes and stuff. So he's not a sports artist. He doesn't do this. Every once in a while, we'll meet up for lunch, and I'll be like, "So what's going on with you?" And I'll explain to him I'm doing sports art for trading card companies. So I'm like, it's booming right now, businesses, and one of the hottest things is I've told him about the Project 70 and the different artists they've got, and I was explaining to him. I think it's is it Fucci? Is that how you pronounce?
Yeah,
Fucci.
Okay.
Fucci's the one that's faceless. Yep. Like all this. Okay, I told him, yeah, there's even an artist out there who's able to produce a product that has no faces for the players, and you can just see this guy's like his brain cannot comprehend how this is even a thing. Like what world are we in? You mean this guy's not painting a face of somebody and it's a portrait of the athlete? And I was like, yeah. So it's a crazy. And Alex Pardee, I mean, he's got monsters painted, so it's just crazy. It's anything you can find anything that you're interested in right now in the hobby as far as artwork, and that's why I'm kind of hopeful. I just think the public, the collecting public, has got a taste for what it could be like to have so many artists involved with something. And most of what I'm seeing, I couldn't have even imagined. So you can imagine a collector thinking, I don't know what's coming next, and I think that's part of the thrill. And as the years go on, I think we're just going to see even more cool products come out by artists, things that kind of push the boundaries and make people think, oh, I didn't know that was possible with a trading card.
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. I think you've gone away from that traditional card of going, okay, I'm getting a base or I'm chasing parallels now, and now you look at these cards and go, anything's possible. You know what? and people love it.
Then you wonder if the pendulum's going to swing too far, and then you come back. We just want black and white images, nothing fancy, just.
Yeah, we'll be getting 2025 studio set where they're just doing posed pictures in front of a blank background and
yeah.
I almost think Topps does it on bunt, and they test things out digitally first, and if it doesn't work all right, and then they just go, all right, well, this is actually really popular or more popular than we thought, and then I think they go, okay, you know what, we'll turn this into a set and see how it goes, because I mean, we play bunt because it's cheap. It's free.
Yeah.
And it's fun, man.
It is fun. But there's a lot of cards out there. I'm like, that's actually a really cool design. If that was an actual physical card, I'd buy that. And so I bet they probably gauge the popularity of that and go, oh, you know what, this has been a more popular set. We could probably actually turn it into a physical card. And who knows? So,
yeah, that'd be smart. Why would you want to roll the dice on a massive brand product that you're going to roll out? Why not do it on the bunt first to see if it even gets one thumbs up?
exactly. See how many go there. So, but yeah, it's a lot of fun. Like I said, I really just like the way the hobby's going now, and I think there's almost a set for everyone's budget, except for kids. Yeah. I think that's the only problem. You know, if you've got a lot of money, you can spend a lot of money, and if you don't have a lot of money, you know, there are sets around that there. But it's definitely a fun time to be back there. And it really kind of harkens back to my childhood of, you know, I've got a few dollars, so let's go buy some cards. Oh
yeah. It is exciting. I remember buying some of the Goodwin Champions when I had my Upper Deck stuff in there. And that was my first experience of opening boxes and getting the feel for just ripping packs out of boxes. And I thought, this is fun. This is really fun. I could get addicted to this. And then I've got some of the artists of the Project 70 that I really like. And I think, should I start collecting now? And I'm afraid to start because then it's just going to be me. I'm not interested in trading and I'm not interested in flipping. So it's just going to be me taking money out of the family budget, buying up stuff I want to look at on my wall. And justifying that to the wife is what holds me back.
I can strongly relate to that as well. I tend to get a bit I have slight addictive traits in my personality, and I can be kind of the same as well. Like I say, I buy the stuff that I just want to put in my collection. It's not really so much about the flipping and the trading either. But recently turned into a bit of a set builder, funnily enough. So I have been doing a bit of changed it up a little bit and done a little bit of swapping, a little bit of trading here and there as well. But yeah, I can fully know where you're coming from with. It's quite fun just ripping stuff out, ripping packs out of boxes, and then ripping cards out of packs, and But before you know it, you can be 4 figures deep, and you're like, oh my god.
Well, they'll do things like that I feel like are kind of cruel. Like they'll have the rip cards. It's like, oh come on, man! I've just dropped this many hundreds of dollars. Now you're gonna make me decide whether I destroy this card in hopes of getting something even cooler. It's like, there's the companies have figured out a way to keep people coming back for more and to keep it addicting and they have so many things like that, like the rip cards that just didn't exist when I was a kid. And I think that's brilliant. You can hide a card inside a card. That's amazing.
Yeah,
we got stale gum. Come on now, we had stale gum in our bags.
Oh man, there's artists out there I've seen using that gum and painting on the gum, and I thought, well, that's brilliant. So, like I said, the artists out there in the hobby, they're just so creative. I mean, there's so much stuff going on, and I'm just as big a fan as collectors are seeing the other artists' work. So it's fun crossing paths with them and, seeing what they're up to.
Do you have a favorite out of Project 70 currently then, or is that like asking you to pick your favorite sibling kind of?
I know so many of them are so cool, but I have to say if I had a top 5, I really like Chuck Styles' work. A lot of the airbrushing I do, I feel like kind of has some similarities in some of the stylized marks he makes. But Matt Taylor's got beautiful work. Tyson Beck's cards I love. Quick. I think
Quick's, yeah.
2 C's. Yeah, I like Quick's work. And Ermsey's kind of out there for me, but it's so, to me, it's like iconic of the last 2 years for Topps. It's like the artwork that some people think is just crazy to see all of a sudden. I feel like when they think about the stuff that shocked them to see it the first time around, it's going to be Ermsey's going to be one of these artists. It's like so far in left field that you just got to get those cards.
Yep.
So
absolutely, funny you say that. I'm already pricing up his backs because of his back cards. Going, I really need to start collecting this set again.
Yeah, I remember seeing it the first time and thinking, "Oh, this is insane! It's like looks like intestines wrapped around the player, and he's bisected. I mean, he's cut in half. And the more you see him, especially his Project 70 stuff, when you see all of them kind of form together cohesively, it's pretty sweet. I mean, it's awesome. He'd have to be one of my top 5 out of the Project 7 artists.
Yeah, he's really nice. I've traded messages with him before, and he gave us some stuff to give away. Erms, if you happen to be watching, I'm sending your stuff. I got stuff for you. I've been putting up this Steve Lake card's going to Ermsy. So
I brought up the one guy that you owe stuff to.
Okay. He gave me some cards, and funny enough, I was packing the stuff up to send it out to him tomorrow because it was a public holiday today. So some things were open, some things weren't. So, but I'm sending him a T-shirt because he gave me some cards of his that he signed. So
cool.
It was really nice of him to donate to. He's a British guy in Paris who doesn't know anything about baseball. But look, and he's a big Garbage Pail Kid guy, and he's a Nintendo 64 guy, and he loves his Nintendo. So that's just the influence on his cards.
The whole collecting world is, I feel like it's people our age that just run all of it, because I'm seeing Nintendo games being graded now. I'm seeing, and they're the games I was playing, like Zelda or something, or Mario Kart. The James Bond GoldenEye game on 64, and but just seeing all these things from my childhood, and they're hard to get your hands on now. It's like they're being traded like stocks. You can have fractional ownership now on a lot of these things, and it's just the world is just going forward fast, and it seems like it's all 40-year-old guys who are into these things running it. So it's fun.
I 100% agree on this. It really is kind of like that. But then I look back and go, how much Nick at Night did I watch? And I watched MASH, my dad, and all this stuff there, and that was, catered to them at their time as well. So, I think it's just we're of that age that our stuff's all cool again. So
I love the Garbage Pail Kids. I can remember my mom getting upset with my brother and I for bringing it in the house because, I have boogers and vomit and stuff on the drawings. And we don't look at that. And now it's like, oh, man, try and chase down the the atom bomb that like the blue
sapphire one, yeah.
Sapphire, oh man, yeah. So it's funny seeing all these things from our childhood come back, and they're just, it's like in hyperdrive. They're just like they're superior versions of what we grew up with. It's just amazing.
To be fair, we did peel the stickers off and put them on our binders and on our lockers.
Trapper keepers.
Exactly. We weren't planning on keeping those things. It was like I put them all over my binder. Like they were great. So.
Oh yeah, my brother and I had bunk beds, and I'm pretty sure my bunk bed wall had just Garbage Pail Kid stickers pasted everywhere.
Yeah, and the old bike spokes as well. That's the traditional favorite as well.
I didn't do a lot of the bike spoke. That would be my dad's generation, but it's probably my father's generation probably shakes their head that we didn't go outside and use the bike spokes more. But heck, I mean, we had Atari and Nintendo and all that stuff coming out. It's like, why would you want to go outside? Let's stay inside. Yeah,
it's the same argument I have with my kids now. Can you please peel yourself off the iPad and go outside?
It's so funny you say that, because I chatted to my dad last night, and he happened to bring up, because I remember when you bought your first Nintendo, because I did not want you to have it, but you had spent all summer making money so you could buy it yourself. And I couldn't say anything. And I was so pissed off at you that you wouldn't buy Nintendo, and then never left the house for like 3 months.
my younger brother, he's 14 months younger than me. We threw more punches at each other playing Contra on Nintendo than anything else, because if you got angry at the person you're playing with, you could just stop playing, and you cannot move the screen if the second person is not going to move. So you just sit at the end of the screen. The game doesn't progress, and yet the enemies coming in from the other end are just killing whoever is the one who wants to keep playing. And I remember us just fighting it out, silly games like Contra, and then you hear news like, hey, if you have an unopened original Nintendo game, you can get it graded, and it's going to sell for $500,000. I remember asking my brother, like, hey, do you have any of those games sitting around? It's a thing now. We can get these things graded, so they're long gone. But
we touched on one of the episodes, Jay, didn't we? There was the first graded one that sold for over $1 million or something.
$1 million.
One sold for $1 million. Yeah,
that's insane.
Unfortunately, it's all a scam.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I did some research on this, and because somebody had posted in one of the groups there. So it's the whoever's doing the auctions for them and whoever is doing the grading are colluding, and they're raising the price up. At, okay, we're going to sell. So they've been buying games back from a few years ago, and they used to go for like 10,000. I said, okay, well, what's the best way to increase the value? Okay, well, we'll sell it for 100,000 because you've got the extra zero there. You know, it's good for their company, good for the auction house that did there. So they're really not worth that much there, and you can go into the rabbit hole there of video game collecting, and everyone's kind of going, you know, what the hell? When did video games go for $1 million? But yeah, so it's basically the auction house and the grading house buying their own stock to raise the value of these things.
Good old market manipulation.
Yep.
So we can go back to just blowing on our Nintendo games and slapping them on our floor.
Yep.
This is all just a scam. Okay.
Yeah. So someone did a really good video of it, and it's like an hour long, and they broke down of who's the main players, who's buying it, and how they've done it, and how they just raised the profile of video games by, you know, being colluding with the auction houses, and then going, well, you know, because it's the same company that grades the company, it's the same company that has the auction house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, you know, so I think what they did is say, okay, well, you know, this is the only company that will grade them, or this is the only one we'll accept as an auction as a graded ones there. And yeah, they go into a deep dive about why it shouldn't be that way. And I nerded out way more than I should have on it, but it was really interesting.
I nerd out on that kind of news too. That's another part of the hobby that is fascinating to me is the amount of scams that will proliferate when the market is real hot. And I can remember like listening to like Paul Lesko with Cardboard Connection Radio years ago, and he would bring news stories about legal issues happening, and just finding out what people can do on eBay to scam you, and you know, with grading cards now being such a big deal, there's so many creative, like, people trying to be clever on how you can sneak cards into cases, crack them open, you know, counterfeit them. But I'm telling you, it's just some really imaginative people out there. If there's $1 to be made, they're going to figure out a way to do it.
Oh yeah. You see you see it every so often in some of the card collecting groups in the US, and yeah, people getting all up in arms about guys who are selling like empty PSA cases on eBay and stuff like that. And it's like, well, there's no reason to be selling an empty PSA case, and there's even less of a reason to be buying an empty PSA case unless you're up to no good. So yeah, like you say, if there's money to be made at it, you can guarantee someone's going to find a way to exploit the system.
Yeah.
But then I guess sports memorabilia and sports collectibles in general have a bit of a checkered history with that. You know, going back to the 90s and early 90s with the all the fakery and all the everybody and their dog who was authenticating autographs in the 90s, and you know, all that good stuff. And well, you can read about that. There's many FBI cases you can read about the fakery that went on in the 90s for sure. But
And all those autographs, yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it's hopefully a little bit less like the Wild West now than it was. But yeah, like you say, there's always an element of that, unfortunately.
Well, collectors in general just fascinate me. I mean, like I said, I didn't get that bug after, you know, I was about 10 or 11. I moved on to some other things, but collectors are fascinating because everyone's got their own style of collecting, you know, what they're into. You know, and some of it is compulsion, which fascinates me. You know, things have to be, especially when we were talking about grading, you know. And I guess I would be the same way. If I started grading things, I wouldn't change up the company. I'd want them all to look the same. So, but just things like that, to me, make collectors so fascinating. Like, they're in this pursuit, they're going to get what they want, and they're going to get it the way they want it. By the rules that they have set in their own head. So I always think it's kind of crazy. It's like, wow, go for it, man. Do it.
Absolutely.
I think a psychological deep dive on the various different types of collector would be fascinating material. Fascinating.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, awesome. Well, Jared, that's us. We've managed to reach our magic hour. So, Jason, any final questions to sum up?
Oh gosh, do we want to give them the $1 million question?
Go for them. Well, it's not $1 million, is it?
$1 million. All right, Jared, you've got $1,000 to buy anything you want card-wise. What are you buying?
Oh man, we just talked about my top 5 of the Project 70 artists. I think I'd try and buy the artist sets of. I could only buy maybe 2.5, right. But I think I'd go in and buy a few artist sets for Project 70. I love Chuck Style stuff, and let's say Tyson Beck. At least those two. I'd go in and get those 2 artist sets.
Oh, fair enough. Those are solid sets. I like Chuck styles. I'm going back and filling my set out there. So
yeah, and
so big shocker. The artist would pick some of the artistic stuff rather than a brand of anything, but that's what I'd go for.
Yeah. Hey, it's Jason's money. You spend it how you want.
In that case, I'll have 2 pallets of creamsicle beer.
There you go.
I will order that up from Josh Trout's wife right now.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Oh,
fantastic. Amazing. Well, Jared, thanks again very much for taking time out of your day and joining us on the show tonight. It's been awesome. It's been great fun. Really appreciate, like I say, taking the time and giving us a little glimpse into your life as a Topps artist and as a sports car artist in general. Really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys.
No worries. Jason, always a pleasure. We'll be back next Monday at 9 p.m. UK time. Live in our usual locations. Tonight's show will be available as a podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, or wherever else you get your podcast from this Wednesday at 9 p.m. UK. Last week I got the podcast out on time. Look at me. So I'll endeavour to do the same this week because I've been pretty crap recently and keep putting it out late. But hopefully that will be out this Wednesday at 9 p.m. We'll see you next Monday live again at 9 o'clock UK time. Thanks very much, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
These my dads make it hurt. These my dads make it hurt.